Now while you're watching this video, please remember to like, subscribe to my channel, click the bell icon for notification of future videos and share this video also. Thank you. Welcome back to my channel, guys. Yes, you would have seen my previous video titled Does what we eat defiles the temple of God, which is our body, according to Ellen G. White, or is it sexual immorality according to Paul? You would have seen in that video where I gave a biblical exposition, right, from the Apostle Paul, that basically shows that it is not what we eat that defiles the body, which is the temple of God, but rather sexual immorality. Now in this video we are looking basically at what Jesus has to say about this, whether what enters into a man defiles the man, such as foods and so forth, right? Or is it what comes out of the man that actually defiles him? This is what we want to look at in this video. Now, I know the argument from Paul is a lot stronger, and the reason why it's stronger is because the Seventh-day Adventist Church and just about all Old Covenant believers who believe these things, they will want to say that what I'm going to show, which appears in Matthew 15 and Mark 7, they will want to say that, oh, we are taking it out of context and that it is not saying what we are saying it is saying, right? They will actually do that, This is their argument, that Christians are taking Matthew 15 and Mark 7 out of context, right? And we are not interpreting it properly. This is what they are saying. But I'm going to show in this video that they are the ones who are not understanding what Mark 7 and Matthew 15 is actually saying. That is, in truth and in fact, nothing that enters into a man, right, can defile him, but what comes out of the man. So this is what we want to look at in this video, right? Because the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and all Old Covenant believers have it to say that certain foods which come under the Old Covenant, it defiles you, right? It defiles the temple of God, right? And Seventh-day Adventists, who is an exception, they take it a lot further, wherein it is not just certain foods under the Old Covenant that defiles a man, but now all meats, everything that is flesh, basically defiles a person. So whereas some Old Covenant believers says it's certain foods, certain flesh, or certain meats that is under the Old Covenant defiles a person, Seventh-day Adventist takes it to another level, where it is not only certain food, quote unquote unclean food for them, but everything that named flesh. Even chicken, which is basically considered clean under the Old Covenant, even that can defile you. This is what they say. And I showed it from the previous video, and I placed the information in the comment section basically to back up what I'm saying. I'm going to also place the same information, right, in the comment section of this video for you guys to see it, right? So with that being said, we are going to look at Mark chapter 7. Mark chapter 7 and Matthew 15 is basically saying the same thing, but I choose to use Mark chapter 7, and the reason for that is Mark chapter 7 actually punch home the point a lot better, for me at least. So with that being said, we're going to read from Mark chapter 7, reading from verse 14 onwards. But from verse 1 to verse 13, we find where it says that, hold on, give me a second, guys. We find where it says that, and I'll be reading from the NASB, that the Pharisees and some of the scribes gathered around him when they had come from Jerusalem, that is, gathered around Jesus, and had seen that some of his disciples were eating bread with impure hands, that is, unwashed. Right? For the Pharisees and all the Jews do not eat unless they carefully wash their hands, thus observing the tradition of the elders. Right? So this is what they basically say, that if you eat things and your hand is not washed, then your hands are impure, and in a sense, your hands is defiled, in, so to speak. Right? And so Jesus combats what they're saying. I'm not going to read all the verse, but you can read from verse 1 to verse 13. Right? But beginning from verse 13, reading again from the same NASB, it says thus: After he called the crowd to him again, that is Jesus, he began saying to them, listen to me, all of you, and understand. There is nothing outside the man which can defile him if it goes into him. But the things which proceed out of the man are what defile him. So Jesus is here saying, nothing that comes into him defile him, but the things that come out of him is that actually defile him. Now there is something that I want you all to know before I continue. Jesus should be aware of the Mosaic law, because the Mosaic law, this is actually contradicting the Mosaic law, what Jesus is saying. For the Mosaic law lets us know that certain foods are unclean, and so therefore to eat it, right, it actually makes you defiled because they are considered unclean. So in what Jesus is saying right here, it would naturally cause one to wonder in their mind, saying, what is he saying? Doesn't the old covenant or the Mosaic law say that certain things, if you eat it, it can defile you? So how can Jesus actually be saying that nothing that enters into the man, right, can actually defile him, but what proceeds out of the man? This is direct contradiction to the Mosaic law. It is contradiction, and it doesn't matter what they want to say, how they want to twist it and say, oh, he's talking about unwashing hands. Sure, the context is about unwashing hands. But Jesus could have made the point in a different way without giving one the impression that they are no longer under that Mosaic law. Or that what actually defiles the man is not the foods and so forth, which is said in the Mosaic law. There are many ways he could have said this. He could have said the point. He could have made the point by saying nothing that is dirty, which enters into the man can actually defile him. Right? He didn't say that, because the unwashing hands, would actually make your food dirty. So he could have said nothing that is dirty that goes into the man defiles him. He could have said it that way, but instead he says nothing. That means nothing absolutely that goes into a man can defile him, but what comes out. You understand what I'm saying? Jesus went on to say, right, that if anyone, the next verse says, if anyone have ears to hear, let him hear. When he had left the crowd and entered the house, his disciples questioned him about the parable. Of course, they would want to question him. Why? Because what he's saying would be puzzling in their mind. Of course, they wouldn't understand what Jesus is saying, because they understand that the Mosaic law would basically say that any food, certain type of food, would make you unclean. It would defile you. So they have all right to basically be wondering about what Jesus is actually saying here. So Jesus went on, answered them and he said to them, are you so lacking in understanding also? Do you not understand that whatever goes into the man from outside cannot defile him? Because it does not go into his heart, but into his stomach and is eliminated. Thus, he declared all foods clean. Now, the KJV doesn't have this in bracket, Right? You find this in bracket from the ESV, right? And you find it from the NLT translation and also the Amplified version. But the KJV doesn't have these words in bracket, right? And because it doesn't have these words in bracket, the KJV only is naturally going to want to raise an opposition against what is basically said there, because they're going to say, oh, read from the KJV because this is saying something contrary and so forth. The KJV, these are man made these translations and so on, therefore it is error. No, it is not error. While you won't see that in the Greek, the bracket and so forth, it is not in the Greek. It is the translators who actually do that. But reason will basically determine if what the translators are saying is true. Just by looking at the context, the context alone should basically let you understand that how the translators put it, it is not inaccurate for them to say that by saying this, Jesus is saying that all foods are clean. You understand? It is not inaccurate for the translators to basically say this, right, guys? And I'm going to show you why it is not inaccurate for the translators to say what is being said from that verse. Just give me a second here. Let me look into something and I'll show you guys. This is how I'm going to prove this. When you look at Leviticus chapter 11, right, reading from verse 1 to 4, reading from the KJV, it says thus: And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, saying unto them, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, These are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatsoever parted the hoof and is cloven-footed, and cheweth the cud, among these beasts that ye shall eat. Nevertheless, these shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the hoof. As the camel, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. Right? Notice, that God says here, that it is unclean unto you, Israel. Unto you it is unclean. When you read Genesis, the book of Genesis, right, where God is talking about the covenant that he made with Noah and all the earth, it was specifically said that this is the covenant, right, that I make with you and every living creature that is upon the earth. So you know from that statement that the covenant was not limited to Noah alone. No, it was for every single person on the earth, including me and you. Both Israel and both Jews and Gentiles alike, the covenant was for all the world. He made it specifically clear that every living thing upon the earth. But here, we don't find God saying it is unclean to you, and to every living creature upon the earth. No! God didn't say that, and because he didn't say that, it is limited to the children of Israel. Therefore, if it's a case that it was limited to the children of Israel, it simply means that it is not naturally unclean. It doesn't naturally defiles anyone. It only defiles the children of Israel, because God made them ceremonially unclean unto the children of Israel. And this is why in Romans chapter 14, Paul says that there is nothing unclean in and of itself. This is the reason why Paul says that, that nothing is unclean in and of itself, because Paul, who is a person who understands the law, who reads the law, he would have been reading this chapter, Leviticus 11, that I'm reading to you, and identifying that it is something that makes the children of Israel unclean. Therefore, nothing is unclean in and of itself, because God made it unclean to the children of Israel. And so Jesus was not saying anything strange, because Jesus understands the law too as well, He wasn't saying anything strange. Jesus would well be aware of Leviticus chapter 11, knowing that nothing truly makes a person unclean. No food makes a person unclean. God just made it ceremonially unclean for the children of Israel. You understand? So this is why when Jesus said what he said in Mark chapter 7, right? Because it does not go into his heart, that is verse 19, but into his stomach and is eliminated. So it doesn't go into his heart, making him defile, it goes into his stomach, right? And it is then eliminated because it comes out, right? So this is what Jesus is actually saying. Now to continue, the preceding verse said, and he was saying, that which proceeds out of the man, that is what defiles the man. For from within, out of the heart of men, proceed evil thoughts, fornications, thefts, murders, adulteries, deeds of coveting, wickedness, as well as deceit, sensuality, envy, slander, pride, and foolishness. All these evil things proceed within and defile the man, not what comes into him. Right, guys? Not what comes into him defile him, but every sinful thing, right, including sexual immorality or fornication, is actually what defiles the man. Right? So this is plain and this is clear cut. Right? They cannot say that he's only talking on washing hands. No. Jesus made it specifically clear that is the thing that come out of you that defile you, not what comes in. And as I said before, there are many ways how we could have said this without implying, right, that no food is unclean. And this is the reason why the disciples actually questioned him, because they were in total confusion by what Jesus is actually saying. Right, guys? Now, let's look at the Greek word for that is used in verse 19. The KJV says, because it entereth not into his heart, but into the belly, and goeth out into the jar, purging all meats. The Greek word for purging there means cleanse. Right? I'm going to put it on the screen for you to see it. It means cleanse. So therefore, what it goes into the belly and goeth out into the jar, thus cleansing all meats. So it cleanses. When it's a purifying, it means that it cleanses all food. So the food is cleansed. Once it goes into the man, right, and come out, the food is actually cleansed. So this is why the NASB and modern translation, right, translate the text and put in bracket. This is why the ESV and other translations translate the text and put in bracket, saying, thus he declared all food clean. So they're not making any mistake when they put in bracket there, saying that Jesus made all food clean by what he's saying, the very Greek word itself, right? Purging means to cleanse. There is simply nothing that anyone can say to actually object to this, because it is so solid clear. Therefore, Ellen G. White and the Seventh-day Adventist Church is basically wrong in what they're saying here. Right, but I leave you guys to determine whether my exposition on this is wrong, or whether Ellen White and the Seventh-day Adventist Church is actually correct in what they are saying. So I end this video. I do hope that you enjoy it. You know what to do now. Like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. And join me a couple days from now, right, when I talk about Daniel. Yes, we have to talk about Daniel. Until then, bye-bye now.